Hello, my friends. Phil Pravda here, and you're listening to another episode of It's All Been Done Before. And as I explain at the beginning of every podcast here, what does it mean that it's all been done before? Well, almost every type of business has been done. This is sort of like a business podcast. Sometimes I have guests, sometimes it's just me talking. This will be another one of me talking my philosophy and what is it? It's all been done before. Like I said, all businesses have done before. Even flying rockets into outer space has been done before. But who's doing it again? Elon Musk. And how is he doing it? He's doing it amazingly well. So is he doing it differently than NASA? Yes. Is he making money doing it? Yes. So he's doing it where it's benefiting him, his employees, his companies that are sort of connected to SpaceX. And NASA did it a different way. So even when it comes to the business of space, it's all been done before and it's being done again. And if there's many, many businesses the same. And this particular episode of this podcast is The Price is the Podcast or something like The Price is Right or something like that. I want to talk about the obscene and absurd pricing of what has gone on in the luxury goods business. I've been in the luxury business for forever, as long as I can remember. Since I can remember me running around a clothing store at age 3 or 4 years old, my grandfather's clothing store on 55th and 56th in Lexington Avenue. I was a little kid. The first time I went, I was 3 years old. My father took me down to the city. My mother was screaming, "Don't take him to the city! Don't take him to the city!" But the city, New York City, my father took me anyway. And I learned the family business from a very, very small age. I hung out in the store all the time with the salesman on the floor, listening to everything going on. I got a million stories that you wouldn't believe. One day we'll do a podcast of all the stories of retail, all those I can remember because they constantly popping into my head at all different times of the day and night. I'm serious. All of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I would think about, oh man, I remember that salesman who worked in the store. He was such a great guy or a strange guy or a weird guy or whatever happened to that guy. He worked for a short time. He worked for a long time. Now, there was one guy, there were two interesting guys over a long span of time. One guy, he only drank tea. I never saw him eat food ever. He was not a great salesman, but very skinny, and he only drank tea. He never had lunch. He never had breakfast. I never saw him eat anything else, not even a potato chip, but he would drink tea all the time. Then there was another guy who worked with me in that building I had on 3rd Avenue and 59th Street opposite Bloomingdale's. That was a whole big private label clothing store that I had. And he was a good salesman. He speaks 5 languages, which was fantastic to have in the store. But he only smoked cigarettes and drank triple espresso and potato chips. That was his entire diet. And for years. I was in that store for years, and that's all I ever saw him eat. Never saw him eat a tuna fish sandwich. Never saw him have a hamburger. Maybe a slice of pizza every now and then, to be truthful. But it was cigarettes and espresso all the time. And I'll tell you a funny story about later in this podcast when Alec Baldwin walked into the store. You got to hear what happened with that. But anyway, the theme of this particular episode is the crazy prices, what has gone on, and we're going to name names in this podcast. We're going to call out these brands, not to saying that they're ripping you off or anything like that, because they do have extremely high quality, beautiful products, beautiful fabrics, stunning design, and they sell very well. Stores all over the world, showrooms all over the world. I love them as well, some more than others, but I do like them. And I've been around them also my whole life because I've seen them coming from obscurity into the international brands that they are today. I've been around this business since, we're talking about the men's clothing business. For those of you who have never heard my podcast, I'll talk a little bit about myself in a second, but I'm talking about the men's clothing business. I remember brands that, no one had ever heard of, and they became huge brands. And then there are brands out there that no one ever heard of, and still no one's ever heard of them. And maybe today they don't even exist anymore. Who knows? But they made beautiful products. So a little bit about myself. For those of you who don't know, my name's Phil Pravda. My company these days for the last 11 years is Suit Cafe at suitcafe.com. We're building a brand new website for the fall. We took down the old website completely. I was so tired of looking at it. I didn't want anybody to even see it. We had nice merchandise on there. We had beautiful ties, shoes, but some of the things, they get sold out. So you put the little sold out sign, and it was getting annoying seeing sold out here and there. Not that we sell everything, we don't, but you put those little sold out signs and say, you know what, let's scrap scrap this website. Let's build something new. And that's what we're doing. We sort of sacrificed the summer website a little bit just to get to the fall season, because that's the best season. Plus, anyway, it was a big mumble jumble this summer with all the tariff nonsense with the EU and other places, and people didn't know what prices were going to be, and the factories weren't shipping right, and then you had to ship, instead of one piece at a time, you had to put 7 pieces in a box at one time because they wanted to spread the shipping cost across all the pieces, because the tariff was 30%, then it was 20%, then it was 15%. Anyway, it's all been straightened out now, and hopefully by the time the fall season gets going, which may be soon, we will be all set up with a new website. So I've been in the business, like I said, my whole life, but I've been working in it 35 years, full time. And many clothing stores in New York City on Madison Avenue, in the best parts, by the way. When people say Madison Avenue is long, all the way downtown, all the way uptown. I was right in Midtown, think, next to St. Patrick's Cathedral. I was around the corner from Rockefeller Center and the Olympic Tower. I was across the street from the Palace Hotel, which in the very beginning, I'm talking 1980, in the very beginning, it was the Helmsley Palace Hotel. For those of you who remember Harry Helmsley, you could Google him. And then I was also at the same time on Fifth Avenue, right next to Saks Fifth Avenue, diagonally across on one side from Rockefeller Center and diagonally across on the other side from the Diamond District, also known as 47th Street. I think 95% of the world's diamonds go through there. So I had a lot of customers from there because I was right on Fifth Avenue. Then we had another store, 44th and Madison, which was right around the corner from Grand Central Station. So you can imagine the amount of traffic that we had in that store, the people every day, morning, noon, and night, passing by, going to Grand Central Station. You just had to go, boom, right around the corner. We were on Madison Avenue. The entrance, for those of you who know New York, the entrance that's on Vanderbilt. That's where we were around the corner from, that Vanderbilt entrance, not the 42nd Street entrance, because we were on 44th and Madison. And then I had that building, like I said earlier, on 3rd Avenue. I had the whole building, 59th and 3rd, 3 floors, all menswear. And that was a fun store. Different than Madison Avenue. Different customer, different clientele. It was younger. It was more fun. There was more color. And I'm talking now 2002, 2003, when that 3rd Avenue store opened up. So, I was doing 2-button peak lapel with flat front pants with ticket hacking pocket. Tom Ford wasn't doing that yet. I was doing it in that store. Now, I'm not saying he copied me because I don't know the guy at all. But I was doing that model in suits and in jackets back then, and it sold out like crazy. I was doing like a lot of classic stuff in that model, especially in suits. We were doing the navy blue and the charcoal gray and the solid black and that 2-button peak. People just love that peak lapel, and I love it today. I make suits for myself today because, Suit Cafe is basically a custom-made suit manufacturing house. So we make the suits in Italy, and we make other things, other accessories like leather goods and shoes we make in Spain. And I want to make some suits in Spain, or I want to make some suits in Portugal. I'm working on that very diligently because, like I said, things are getting very expensive, and we're going to name names in this podcast. This is the price of podcasts, like the Price is Right. We're going to say, come on down, and we're going to name the names and talk about these products from these high-end, ultra high-end luxury menswear brands, which you're all going to know the names once I start mentioning them. You're going to know them all. And it's not to knock them because they make beautiful stuff, but the prices have become, really astronomical. And I'm going to talk about the prices where I remember them back in the early 2000s, in the 90s, and even in the mid to late 80s. I remember those prices of what they were for those particular brands because I was in those showrooms in New York and in Italy, and I was in those factories in Italy too, where they actually made the products of these big brands. Before a lot of them got bought by the bigger conglomerates like LVMH or Richemont or Kering, they were independent. That's right. Some of them only had agents here. They didn't even have showrooms yet. They just had a guy who found them in Italy someplace in a closet and say, hey, you make a beautiful product. You mind if I represent you in America? You give me the exclusive. I want to be your agent for all of America. That's right. One guy would go to these big brands, what are today big brands, and say, let me be your agent. I'll go to different stores and I'll sell the product to this guy and that guy. I know 2 stores in Miami and I know 5 stores in New York, and I'll travel to the US and I'll go to LA and I'll go to Chicago and I'll find you all the best shops to put your product in, and I'll sell it. And then either you'll pay me a commission or I'll take a cut of the sale, or however they work it out. And then he faxes the orders. Remember fax machines? He faxes the orders to the factory. They make the goods, and hopefully you get what you picked. You never know. Those years, you never know if you were going to get what you picked, if they were going to substitute it. And then when it came to payment, you were really working with the agent. So the agent had his own company. So you had to pay the agent because he was invoicing you for the goods. But there was always that, little somebody in the background, in the back of your mind saying, is that agent going to take my money? And is he going to actually pay the manufacturer? Or is he going to stiff everybody? Well, the good ones paid, but over many years, a lot of the agents didn't pay, and the agents went bye-bye. That's what happened. There really are no more agents so much anymore. All those big brands got smart, and they said, you know what? Let's just go to New York, and we'll open our own showroom, and we'll do it ourselves. We'll send one guy from Italy, like one guy from the family. We'll get him a cheap apartment rental, like down in the 20s on like 3rd Avenue or 2nd Avenue. He could live there. He'll go to our showroom every day. He'll run the showroom because he's from our family, and we won't have any issues, and he'll show the collection, and we'll ship him all the goods. And he'll hire a secretary, maybe one other salesperson, and they'll do the whole deal themselves, and then we can have vertical integration of our wholesale and our manufacturing, and then maybe we'll have to do another showroom in Chicago later on if it really goes well. And that's really what happened. All those brands that were not known slowly got showrooms here, slowly sold more and more independent mom and pop retailers who really pushed all their brands over the years. They were unknown, remember, at the beginning. So how did they get known? All the small little mom and pop stores, which really don't exist anymore. A lot of them don't exist, especially in New York City, where the rents are really typically very high. Those mom and pops don't exist anymore. So all those years where we pushed the big brands, now all the big brands came in, they have showrooms, and now they all have their own stores all over the world in the major cities. And that's what we're going to talk about today, all these brands and what has happened to the pricing. So like I said, I've been around this my whole life. And of course, I'll take questions. I can't take questions on the podcast, but if you want to get in touch with me through any social media, whether it's Instagram or whether it's TikTok or whether it's, wherever, you could find me at Suit Cafe, Twitter, at Suit_Cafe, or under my name. You could find me on Twitter. Now it's X. See, everything changes. Agents became showrooms and Twitter became X. You see, nothing stays the same over time. So let's get into it. Let's talk about our first, really my favorite, probably one of my favorites, unbelievable brand, always the standard in my mind. And I'm talking about over a long period of time when it came to quality men's clothing, beautifully tailored structure. I'm not talking about unlined, unstructured, soft shoulder, which is sort of, popular now. But, my customers like that more structured look. These are business people. They don't want to look wrinkled and rumpled. It's nice, in a summer day when you want to throw on a pair of jeans and you have a t-shirt and you throw on a cool jacket with no lining and no shoulder pads. That's nice. Maybe in a linen or silken wool, something like that. But when you're in New York City and you're walking to a meeting or you have meetings, or even if you're not going to meetings all the time, let's say you're a doctor and you're wearing scrubs every day, but you have an event. You want to put on a nice, structured, tailored, looking suit. The word everyone uses, sartorial, right? Everyone heard that word in the past. Everything became sartorial. Anyway, the first one, we're going to talk about the price first before I give the name to you guys. Beautifully, beautifully done. But, I guess I have to give the name right away. But what has happened to the pricing of Brioni? Brioni, gorgeous. Brioni, the original label of Brioni, for those of you who don't know, Brioni Roman style. That was the label in the suit. It wasn't just Brioni. It was Brioni Roman style. And I remember the label. It was black with red lettering, and it said Brioni on top, Roman, and then style. And always that was known as the suit. Everybody knew Brioni 5000, that was the price. They had a few that were less, but everybody knew that Brioni, if you walked into the Brioni store or you went into like a department store, maybe Saks Fifth Avenue, they carried it, or Bloomingdale's didn't have Brioni. That was too high end for them. But if you went to Saks or maybe Neiman Marcus, at the time, Neiman Marcus is pretty much out of business, taken over by Saks right now. Saks, which now became Saks Global. Now it's Neiman Marcus involved in Saks Global. But Brioni was the standard, and then you knew you're going to drop $5,000 at least for a Brioni suit. Now, let me talk about what's going on today. And when I say today, I mean we're talking fall, winter 2025-2026. So we're going ahead a little bit into the next season, because really August is here, and who's buying summer suits now? I mean, maybe okay, some people live down south. It's still going to be warm for a long time. Even in the Northeast, it's going to be warm through September, October. It doesn't really cool down really until November. Maybe mid to end of November. Yeah, you got a few cool days here and there, but it's not really cooling down till then. But anyway, the Brioni price, and I'm going to go online, and if you hear me clicking around, that's because I'm clicking on the different websites. I really want to be, exact when I talk about this. But if you want to talk about prices, how about $10,500 for a 100% wool suit? How about $6,300? Okay, that's about their price range somewhat. How about $13,300 for a suit? All right, it's an extra special Super 210 fabric. Rare. You don't find suits in Super 210s, even Super 200s. I mean, I was selling Super 200s back in the early 2000s, and yeah, the suit was expensive. It wasn't Brioni, but it was like $12,000 for that suit. But you couldn't find them anywhere. Nobody really had Super 200s or 210s. 14,000, 8,000, 9,000. Here's a Super 220, 16,200 for the suit. Now, for those of you who don't know what the super means when it comes to wool, what happens is they take a kilo of wool and they stretch it to one fiber. Now, if that one fiber, now we're talking about the diameter of that fiber. So if the fiber snaps at 1,100 meters, they're stretching it out. 1,100 meters, it's a Super 110. So the diameter is a certain width. Now, if they can stretch it further, that means the diameter is getting more narrow. So the fiber is getting more narrow until it breaks. So if they go to 2,000 meters, the technology is getting better and better, spinning these fibers. 2,000 meters is a Super 200. If they can keep going before it breaks, Super 220, 2,200 meters, you're talking very, very narrow fiber. And that's becoming an extremely soft, very soft suit. Now, it doesn't mean it's a winter or a summer, because you could have flannels for winter that are supers, very high-end Super 180s, Super 160s, Super 200s, and you could have the regular hard finish, which would also be Super 180s, Super 200. So one could be lightweight for summer, one could be slightly heavier for winter, although those are going to be always kind of light, even if it's a flannel finish on top. But you're talking about a suit that is now delicate. It wrinkles more easily. It's not to wear every day. It's for somebody who has a lot of suits in the closet, and then they say, hey, you know what? Super 220? I never had anything like that. It's $16,000, but I never had anything like that. But it's $16,000, but I never had anything like that. And no, the podcast is not skipping. That's me saying it 2-3 times again and again. Excuse me. But yeah, $16,000 for a suit. I mean, that is a lot of money, even if it is Brioni. And Brioni's gorgeous. And I understand the fabric is Super 200s, and that's gorgeous too. But I mean, that price range has really become extremely, extremely high. Now, they have their customers, no question, and I'm sure they're selling these suits. They have stores all over the world. They're in all the department stores. They're in Harrods in London. They're in, are they in Rinascente in Italy? I'm not sure. I'm sure they're in probably Au Printemps or Galeries Lafayette in Paris. I'm sure they're there. I'm sure you could find Brioni. There's definitely Brioni in Tokyo. There's Brioni in China. They opened a few stores. It's everywhere. Middle East, you have Brioni, 100%. It's all, they have stores there. So Brioni has their customers. They have their customers who like their shape. It's that more defined shoulder, like I said before. And let's just click around and see what else is here. That's the newest stuff. Let's go into the shirt area. I'm talking a plain white shirt. How much are you willing to pay for a plain white shirt? Okay, it's Brioni. We know the fabric's going to be great. The collar, everything about a shirt, first of all, is about the collar. And, looking here at their website, I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised that some of their collars don't look correct on their website. Some of the collars, the two sides, they sort of overlap each other. And I'm sort of surprised they took the picture that way. Something that I don't like. When the collar sort of overlaps at the neck, it should reach up right to the point, right against your neck. And anyway, sky blue, plain sky blue shirt. How much is the shirt? $1,150. Okay, $1,150. Now, I sold shirts in that price range before in the past, and not these last few years, but even years prior. I used to sell Versace, those crazy silk shirts with the leopards and the all the stuff going on, the tigers. I used to sell a lot of those in the 90s, and those shirts were like $1,500, but it was silk. It wasn't 100% cotton shirt. But the Brioni shirts, you're talking 800 and up. I don't think there are any shirts below 800. Or they have a shirt 700. So you're talking 700 and up for a dress shirt. A lot of money for a shirt. Let me tell you, there's a lot of shirts out there that look great. I've seen them. I can't name all the names off the top of my head, but a lot of good shirts out there that are half that price. Half that price is $375 or $425 for a shirt. Are you still willing to pay $425 for a dress shirt? That's 50% the price of a Brioni shirt. So you tell me, is any shirt worth $800, $1,000 for a dress shirt? If it's just plain blue, plain white, light blue, dark blue, plain pink. You tell me if you think it's worth it. Now, a tuxedo shirt, maybe. Very fancy tuxedo shirt. They have a tuxedo shirt here for about $1,100. So, I don't know. Is it worth that to anybody listening to this podcast? It's worth it to somebody because I know they sell them. And I know there are customers that buy multiples. And they're not just buying one or two. They say, okay, give me 3 white, 3 blue. And, they love the way the shirt feels, the way it fits. The collar fits nicely. I know the shirt fits great and the suits fit great. So there's nothing to complain about there. But do you get to a point of diminishing returns is the question. Is there a point of diminishing returns where how much is wool or a combination of wool and some other, we're only going to talk about natural fibers. We're not going to say polyester because they don't make suits with polyester. These in this price range anyway. So is there any combination of wool and silk or wool and linen or silk and linen or whatever it might be that, sort of cancels itself out? Is 10,000 the number? Is 16,000 the number? Is 20,000 the number? Is 5,000 the number? There are plenty of people out there. I know a lot of people are going to say, today I saw one customer of mine. I just got beautiful, beautiful fabric from Lanificio Cerruti. You might know Cerruti, a name that's been around for a very long time. Especially for fabric. They make beautiful fabric. It's the first season I ever had their fabric in 88% wool and 12% silk. I mean, stunning, beautiful sport jackets, like jackets you never saw before in your life. Okay, so these jackets are going to be, first of all, custom made to your measurements, and they're going to be $1,895, $1,895. Now, that is a great price for a custom-made jacket in Cerruti fabric and silk and wool made in Italy. It's a fantastic price because, anywhere you go, anywhere you look, and I know the prices that are around. First of all, something like Brioni, you're not getting custom, you're getting off the rack. Okay, so let's just check out a jacket now from their new arrivals. Okay, here's a jacket in silk and cashmere, $8,000 for the jacket. And they make a matching shirt in the same silk and cashmere if you want the matching shirt, the matching jacket to match. $2,300 in silk and cashmere for a shirt. So are you spending $2,300 for a shirt? Now, if somebody wants the full look, you want the red jacket, you want the red shirt, you want the red. Also, they make the matching pants for $2,750, and I'm talking $2,750, not $27.50, my friends, but $2,750. You can get the whole outfit together. So let somebody add that up. Jacket $8,000, shirt $2,300, and the pants $2,750. You buy all 3 pieces, and you have a suit with the matching shirt, and you are ready to go. Where you're going, I don't know. You're not standing there on The Price is Right saying, Bob Barker, come on down. You're not doing that. So, and not in that outfit anyway. If you remember some of those outfits people wore in the 70s, I remember watching that TV show in the morning, right, in the 1970s. That was some crazy outfits back then. So anyway, what was I saying? So you get sidetracked sometimes, you forget what you're saying. So anyway, that's that's Brioni, and I was telling you about this customer I saw today. So Cerruti fabric, beautiful jackets. I'm going to show them on the website for the fall. Unbelievable. Every pattern was nicer than the next one, and the colorations were gorgeous. But $18.95. Now, this is a guy who could afford. I know the customer. He's my customer. He could easily afford $18.95. Very, very successful doctor, head of his department at a big hospital. But he loved all the jackets. But he said, $18.95. That's not me. So, he has his budget for what he wants to spend on a jacket, but it's not $18.95. And that's custom made. So he's also not a customer for a jacket for $8,000 for off the rack. You want to order your size 40, 42, 44, 46, 48 for $8,000, you could do it on the Brioni website. You could order it and, see what you get. It's going to be gorgeous. No question. It's going to be gorgeous. So, there are people out there who say, no way 8,000 can't do it, but they could afford it. There are people who say 8,000 can't do it. I can't afford it. And there are people who say, even 1,800 is too much money, or even 1,000 is too much money. But that's all fine because there's different price points and different price ranges for everybody. But you just have to be careful about what kind of quality and what kind of fabric and what kind of construction that you're getting in certain price points. I see things online all day on Instagram and on TikTok, suit $99. Well, you think it's any good? The guy's telling you it's unbelievable. It's the best suit ever you could buy. Look at the collar, look at the lapel, look at the lining, look at the inside. It's only $99. What do you think it's going to feel like when you get it? What do you really think it's going to feel like when you get it? You think it's going to feel like Brioni? See, what I strive to do is to make a product that feels and looks like Brioni or Canali, and you have that fit and you have the finish and you have those details, but in a better price and still have it made in Italy. So suits, $19.50, $21.50, $3,500, even starting at $14, $16.50, there are suits that I start at that price. All custom, pick your lining, have all the hand stitching that you want. There aren't any extra charges for working buttonholes, the beautiful mother of pearl buttons, and they start around $16.50. Now, you're not going to get a cashmere suit. You're not going to get Laura Piana. You're not going to get those names in the fabrics. You're going to get good fabric, no question. You don't have to have Laura Piana for everything. If you just want a navy blue suit and you don't care so much about Laura Piana or a brand name of a fabric, there are navy blue fabrics that are just as gorgeous from Italy, and you might not know the name of the mill, and they're great. One of my favorite mills is Taglia di Delfino. I don't know how many people know that name, but it's a fantastic mill, and I like it much better than Laura Piana. So you could look it up online, Taglia di Delfino, and you'll see it, and you could tell from the photos that they make gorgeous fabrics, So there we had Brioni. I don't know what happened with the prices. I mean, we can go into more things. They have shoes. They got all kind of things. Let me see the boots for fall, just for argument's sake. I always like a chukka boot in the fall, and their price, of course, $1,200. Oh, the chukka boot, $1,850 in the suede for the Brioni chukka boot. They don't make. I don't think they make their own shoes. They're farming it out to a third-party Italian company that's making for them. They're probably making the design. Now, Brioni is now owned by who? Is it Louis Vuitton bought Brioni? I don't remember. It's either Kering or Louis Vuitton. One of them bought Brioni. And let's see how much a crocodile belt is from Brioni. I used to sell crocodile belts for $850 when I had my stores. Let's see if they even have any crocodile belts. So they're at $850 for leather belts, which, all right, it might be nice leather. Maybe, I'm not sure. They're at $800 just for a fabric belt. How about that? Oh, nubuck. Nubuck is like a fake suede. Nubuck. Anyway, let's move on. We talked about Brioni. Let's see what our next victim is going to be to talk about the prices. And all right, let's go to one that probably everybody knows on this podcast. And the price is also, this was always higher than Brioni. It's a different look than Brioni. It's from the South. It's Neapolitan tailoring. It's a little closer to the body. It's a little shorter in the jacket, a little shorter in the sleeves. And it's really that soft. I mean, did they pioneer the soft construction? They didn't pioneer it, but maybe they have the best fit when it comes to the very soft construction. And they also like to do that manica camicia, which means the shirt shoulder. So on a sport coat, they put a shirt shoulder, which means right on the edge of the shoulder, you have these small little striations, almost like mini, I don't want to say pleats, but mini pleats that looks like the edge of a shirt sewn in to the shoulder, but it's really a sport jacket. And in Italy, it became very, very popular. It was never popular with my customers because it doesn't look like it's pressed properly. And my customers, like I said, like to look like they're pressed. I think most guys like to look clean and crisp and pressed, unless you're wearing linen, because linen in the summer is amazing. And I love the way it wrinkles. If you have a good linen, the linen wrinkles in all the right spots. That's what happens. You get all the right spots. It wrinkles inside your elbows. It wrinkles behind the knees. It wrinkles in the front by the pockets. And if you sit in the car with the jacket on, I always do that with my linen jacket. I sit in the car. You get these cool wrinkles horizontal across the jacket, all the way from the top, all the way down to the bottom. And it looks like that really beautiful lived-in type of linen. So let's go back to this one. I'm going to name a couple of prices here. We're going to talk about, let's go to we started off with Brioni with the suits. So let's go to the suits here and let's see what they have now in their new price point for their fall winter. I mean, come on, suits starting a grade. Oh, well, this is something special. I'll leave that one for last. But here you have suits, 10,000. 13,905. And this is, by the way, buying on the internet. This is nothing custom made. This is, you go on a website just like you would go on Amazon and say, let me find my toothpaste. And I can get 2 for $8. Let me get that. Oh, and I can get it by 4 a.m. I'm going to be sleeping, but ring my doorbell. I'm sure to wake up and get my package at 4 a.m., right? So 10,000 for a suit. Here's one, 13,900. Here's another suit for 9,000. Another one for 10,000. Here's another one for 12,000. Here's a blue pinstripe suit, but has cashmere, a little bit of cashmere, 13,100. And of course, the pièce de résistance, my friends, the gray checked wool and vicuña. For those who know what vicuña is, if you know, you know. It's one of the most expensive fibers in the world. It comes from the mountains in South America. You got to go up to the vicuña to find that animal. And you got to shave the hair under the chin only a certain time of year. And if you're not there, you ain't getting it. Anyway, 16,000 for the suit of vicuña. And of course, what brand am I talking about? A very famous, beautiful brand. Not knocking it. Beautiful craftsmanship, beautiful design, beautiful construction. My father was one of the first in America to carry this brand in his store. And I do know the gentleman who runs Kiton. That's right, Kiton, North America and South America. He may even have a bigger position now since I saw him last, which was at Pitti Uomo a couple of years ago. And nice guy, know him many, many years. He was in my parents' house, had dinner there. And my parents went to his house in Italy. They had dinner there. So my father was very close with him for many, many years. And anyway, he found Kiton in Naples, and he brought them to America along with a lot of other brands. And he did very, very well for himself because Kiton exploded on the U.S. market. And he had a few other brands that exploded on the U.S. market. Some of them sort of faded away over time, like Luigi Borelli. For those of you who know the famous Luigi Borelli shirts, they were beautiful shirts. They were the first ones to come out with those very thick buttons on the shirt. Remember those triple-sized thick buttons? And then everybody would complain, oh, the buttons broke. All the buttons would break, and then you'd have to get new buttons because they were too thick. And then it was really the cleaners that destroyed the buttons because they would press them in those high-heat pressing machines. They would clamp down, kaboom, clamp down on the shirt, and they would bust all those expensive buttons. And then customers would come with the shirt. My buttons broke. The cleaner broke my buttons. I can't go to work like that with the broken button. So we would replace the buttons for the customer, no charge, of course, with our tailors. And we would put the new buttons back in. But Luigi Borelli was a great shirt. You can look up what happened to Luigi Borelli in Italy online. Google what happened to Luigi Borelli. You could read the story about what happened to the company and the guy. So you could read about that. But anyway, Kiton, we're talking about, again, the pricing. I mean, I remember when Kiton was known as a suit, 6,000, 7,000. Now it's 10, 13, 16, 16,000 they're up to. Let's go through the Kiton shirts. Let's see some dress shirts. Here we go. Cotton regular light blue check dress shirt. I mean, am I a fan of the collar? Everything for me is the collar. You don't have a good shaped collar. The whole shirt looks ridiculous, really. It's hard to tell what their collar looks like on this website, really. Let me click it. They picked, I don't know why they would do this. They don't have anybody proofing their website at Kiton. I mean, when you have certain patterns and you take a picture or it's on video and it sort of does something to the camera lens, it sort of gets all pixelated and striated. It's called moire. you get that moire pattern. Well, they have shirts on their website. I can't tell what the shirt is because it's all moire. I mean, I got to zoom in. Okay, you make me zoom in 5,000 times magnification so I don't see the moire. But that's insane to do. No, I really don't like their collar. It has a space at the top. So when I put my tie on, there's going to be a space in my neck. I hate having a space in the top. I like it to be exactly close together, not overlapping, but exactly close together. So it's not my type of collar. And of course, the price, $1,360 for a shirt made in Naples by hand with 22 steps, as they say, hand-carved buttons crafted from Sydney Pincatata Maxima, which is mother of pearl, cultivated off the coast of Australia. So that is so nice. If I buy my Kiton shirt, every button is a piece of jewelry, my friends. So I better have insurance on my buttons on my shirt, or somebody might try and cut the buttons off my shirt while I'm walking down in the city someplace. Like, you just see that guy who's always talking about his watches, and he's on 47th Street in New York City. I forgot his name, but sells very expensive watches like Richard Mille and Rolex and Audemars, all those watches. And he wears a lot of jewelry, and he's always flaunting the jewelry on the internet, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, whatever. And he's in New York, so you might not know the story if you're not in New York, but you can Google it. The guy got mugged in front of his house at 9 a.m. He walks out of his house to go to work. All of a sudden, two guys come in construction vests, like they're workers, and they get close to him, and all of a sudden, bam, they shoot him with a taser in the leg. And the guy collapsed down. It got all caught on his home, like, video cam system he's got in the front of the house. His Ring caught the whole thing. They, bam, hit him in the leg with the taser. Guy falls down, and they grab all his jewelry, his Van Cleef, those ridiculous bracelets that men are wearing, the women's bracelets. I don't get that. He's wearing the diamonds on his wrists, and he's got the necklaces, and he's got the Richard Mille watch, $360,000 for the wristwatch. That's another thing, plastic and metal watch for $360,000. Come on. Anyway, so that's the thing with this shirt. The way they explain it, all of your buttons are like a piece of jewelry, so that's why it's so expensive. Maybe. Okay, $1,360 for a Kiton shirt. I'm sure they have some others that may be not too expensive, but that's their price range. So, here's a good close-up of the collar. Excuse me. I still don't like it. In any event, let's go back and let's go check out some of their leather goods. Oh, their jeans, probably very expensive. Oh, we didn't do jackets. Let's see the jeans. Yeah, $1,700 for a pair of jeans from Kiton. All right. I sort of get that. Jeans are an item. They could be expensive, but let's go to sport jackets, which is more of the tailored stuff like I'm into. Beautiful colors, by the way. Beautiful orange plaid, red plaid, very different. But, you want to talk about price? $14,050 for a sport jacket. And what is this one? And also the fit of it. I don't know, so short. To me, and from what I saw in Italy, the fashion is going the opposite. It's not going shorter, it's going longer. It's not going tighter, it's going a little wider. Pants already, they're showing with single pleat and double pleats. They're showing pants with cuffs on the bottom, not plain bottom. It's going back to that wider leg. A lot of the companies are already showing it on their website for fall. Brioni had a few things. Kiton definitely has some things that I see. And we're going to move on to one of the next brands, which definitely has wider leg pants, longer coats that look more comfortable. This jacket is, I'm looking at it on this website, burgundy cashmere blazer with a pinstripe pattern. That's all it says. $14,050 for a jacket. Okay, now figure out if you live in a state that charges sales tax 8% or 9%, put that on top, and it's just become crazy insanity. With the pricing. Let's just see what, for argument's sake, they have some new outerwear. All right, let's just see. Okay, lambskin jacket, in other words, leather, $15,000. All right, maybe that I could see. It's a special kind of leather. It looks nice. It's hard to get leather to fit properly. But, okay, all cashmere bomber jacket, $10,000. I could see that too from them. A padded vest, like something you would buy from North Face, they have for $3,500. Or a bomber jacket, $7,600. They have some nice pieces, different looking, unusual. I don't know what's going on in Italy with all of these sort of four-pocket, safari-looking jackets. No one's wearing that I see in America, especially not in New York. But in Europe, they are wearing that sort of four-pocket, I don't know what you want to call it, like a dictator of a third world country sort of jacket over your shirt. Not a sport jacket, like an outerwear type of thing with 4 flap pockets, if you know sort of what I'm talking about. Anyway, but the prices, that's $13,000. I mean, astronomical. Some nice design, some beautiful colors, of course, because they have the top. They get to pick the top fabrics, and when you're in a certain price range, remember, it's not normal looking. When you're in a certain price range, you see nicer fabric, you see nicer patterns, and you see nicer color combinations that you don't see in lower price. Somebody once asked me, why are the ties Zegna? Why is a Zegna tie $200? Now it's more. But those years, we sold a lot of Zegna ties. Why is Zegna $200? Or why is Versace $110? I'm talking about the early 90s. Why is another tie $295 for a necktie? Well, look at the color. You like it because you see this particular color and pattern and the finish of the silk. Why do you like it? Because it has those traits. Now look at a tie that's $85. I mean, you put the two together and you see right away, you don't have the same kind of silk, you don't have the same kind of coloration, and you don't have the same type of pattern. So the other one is just nicer and better looking. And that's why it's more expensive, because it took a lot more going into the design of this one in terms of making the silk and doing the pattern than it did for the other one. So that's why that one's more expensive. So there you have Kiton. Look, stores all over the world. Beautiful departments inside all the biggest department stores in the world. And they have the price to go with everything, and they're not shy about it. A technical raincoat, $5,000. A denim jacket, $4,500. Nice, beautiful, like an olive army green denim. Probably fits amazing. And I get it. I do, because I'm in this business a long time, so I get it. But like I said, do you get up to a point of diminishing returns when it comes to this? Okay, let's go to our next brand. We're going to go, very popular. People love it. People love the glasses. Tom Ford. Okay, so here's Tom Ford. So here's something a little different. When we were talking about Kiton and we're talking about Brioni, we are talking about factories. Okay, these are factories that make their product. That's what they make. Brioni makes Brioni. Kiton makes Kiton. They're not manufacturing for anybody else. And that's the brand and that's the factory. Now, when you have something like Tom Ford is a brand, and Tom Ford doesn't have a factory that's called the Tom Ford factory. Tom Ford is using a very good Italian factory. I think it's the Zegna factory, if I remember correctly. And if you look at the interior label of the Tom Ford suit, not the label that says Tom Ford, but the interior label and the inside pocket that has the articolo number, it has the color number, it has the size, it has the composizione, what the suit is made out of, that sort of thing. It will look the same, if not very similar to that interior label that's inside a Zegna suit. Okay, so not that you're getting the same suit, but you're really getting the same construction, which is the most important part. So the Tom Ford suits, and look, you're getting a bargain compared to Brioni and Kiton. Tom Ford, you're getting $5,300, $7,500 for a suit, $6,000 for a suit. No suits over $6,000, $7,000, maybe a little over $7,000. You're even getting a tuxedo for $7,000, which is, not a terrible price for Tom Ford. But again, this is a brand name that doesn't own a factory. Now it's also owned by a bigger conglomerate. I don't remember which one bought it out, but another big conglomerate owns it. And you could tell who's wearing Tom Ford because the suits, everyone who has the same model, they're all wearing the same thing. 2-button, single-breasted, peak lapel, with wider flap pockets and a wider ticket pocket. And of course, what Tom Ford always does is when you look at the buttonhole on the lapel, it's always extra long. Then you know right away, boom, it's a Tom Ford. Usually Brad Pitt is wearing Tom Ford all the time, as far as I could tell. Also, if you know the very popular comedian Sebastian Maniscalco, I've seen him wearing suits, all Tom Ford. Also, but now we're in now I want to say normal. We're in a normal price range. Now we're in a normal price range. 5,000, 7,000 became normal all of a sudden for suits. But again, they're showing pleat. No, they're still showing flat front. They're showing short pants. They're still showing shorter, tighter. But I have a feeling it's going to go the opposite way very quickly. So watch what you buy when it comes to short and slim and tight. I was never really selling that to anybody. Like I said, my customers are more, I don't want to say conservative, updated conservative. But anyway, Tom Ford, beautiful product. I never actually tried one on my body, but I could see how it fits other people. It fits very nicely. And you do get his design. I mean, I don't think he's designing anymore, but you get his design. It's only manufactured in one of the best factories in Italy that manufactures suits. There's only so many good factories, and all these big brands that don't have their own factories want to use those factories, like Ralph Lauren or who else? Who I can't even remember all the brands. But Ralph Lauren, like Purple Label, that's another one. Uses other people's factories. Now I remember the Tom Ford. I remember the shoes being, for whatever reason, more expensive than usual. Yeah, these were more expensive than I really thought they would be. Almost $2,000 for a pair of loafers. $900 for a pair of driving shoes. Like the ones that have the little nipples on the bottom. They call those little nipply things on the bottom. Burnished leather, $2,000 for shoes. There aren't any good men's shoes out there from any store that are under like $700. Really not. Made in Italy, that is. If you go to Spain, you can get a little better price. Why? Because the labor is a little less expensive in Spain, actually. Let's move on to the next one. And of course, one that's a favorite all over the world because the style is not your traditional suit style. It has a little different flair to it. And his style is something that is very, very different. That's why people like it. And that's Brunello Cucinelli. My father was one of the first in the United States to sell Brunello Cucinelli. And guess what? It didn't sell because it's just as bad to be too early than it is to be too late with a certain brand or a certain design. Because if you're too early, nobody wants to buy it because they don't get it. And by the time they get it, you don't have it anymore. And then by the time you buy it back, the fad is over. So you messed up the whole thing. You messed everything up, right? Can't catch a break. Anyway, Brunello Cucinelli, a little different. He's showing wider leg pants with pleats. Really nice looking, some light blue corduroy. The corduroy hasn't been around in a long time. I don't know anybody showing corduroy. I used to sell a lot of corduroy in the early 2000s, even in the 1990s, from Canali, corduroy suits, and even in my own store on the one I told you about on 59th Street and 3rd Avenue. I had beautiful corduroy there. I had like banana yellow corduroy and bright orange and turquoise blue. I love those colors in corduroy pants. A lot of guys love them in that neighborhood. I was in that neighborhood that had all the designers and decorators. They would come to my store with they all had the same bag. They all had the Louis Vuitton, I forgot what you call it. It's like a satchel bag. And they all had their fabric swatches in that bag to show their clients, all the designers and the decorators that would come to my store. And they would buy those types of corduroy pants because it was fun. Also corduroy jackets. That's fun too. So the price points now on Brunello Cucinelli, also, very high. Corduroy jacket, the jacket alone, $5,600. How about a shirt for $930? I mean, some of the prices are just $12,000 for like a field jacket. So let's go to the new collection for the new arrivals. And we'll look at the men for the new arrivals because that's what we concentrate on here is the men's clothing. And here you have the corduroy suit is $7,000 something. Actually, they're doing like separates. You could buy the jacket alone. You could buy the pants alone if you wanted to. Here's a light blue Prince of Wales. A beautiful fabric. It looks gorgeous. It's a 3-button. It's really like a 2 convertible 3, which is not my favorite thing. And that third buttonhole sort of rolls over. Never really liked that look. But jacket $6,200, pants $2,000. So there you go, $8,200 for the suit if you want the suit like that. All in all, compared to what we've seen so far, it hasn't been crazy expensive, right? It just hasn't been here for Brunello Cucinelli. But I'm sure we will find. Let's go to the suit section that has the real suits in it, and let's see. Oh, this is like a lookbook that they put together. You could discover them individually. And we'll check out one more thing from Brunello Cucinelli that he's famous for, which are his knitwear. A lot of cashmere knitwear from Cucinelli all the time. And here we go. A cashmere cardigan, $3,000. Not a terrible price. Another one for $4,400. A cashmere sweater, $1,500. That's not terrible for this kind of quality cashmere made in Italy. I'm telling you right off the bat, and 11 colors. So, all right, maybe Cucinelli is not so terrible. I mean, it's pricey, but maybe it's not as crazy as some of the other ones. Oh, here's a different kind of sweater. I'm not sure what the fabric is, but it's $5,000. So it must be a special type of fabric in that sweater. Beautiful pattern, though. And let's move on to the last one. The last one of my favorites. I sold it for over 30 years. And in my mind, this is the best bang for your buck on the market today. It has the best fit of any suit on the market today. And it's really what I try and model a lot of my clothing after in terms of the fit that they have, because their fit is just very clean. It's very crisp. People love it. And no matter what you try to sell somebody, if you try and take them away from this brand, and by the way, this brand is not like a Tom Ford where you have the name and then they get a factory to make it for them. These people own the factory. They're a family business. They own their shirt factory. In the beginning, when they started selling shirts, I remember when they didn't have shirts, they just started a small shirt collection. They went ahead and what they did was they did a little test with a shirt factory to try and sell their shirts. And then when it started to get really good, they bought that factory out so they would own it and run it outright. So what I'm talking about is Canali. Canali is a beautiful brand. My father was their first customer in America to carry Canali. Can you imagine that, being the first customer in America to carry a brand like Canali? And for those of you who don't know, it wasn't even called Canali back then. It had a different name. I'm not going to tell you the name. If you want to try and look it up, you can. Maybe I'll come on another podcast, tell you the name. But there was a guy in 1980. His name was Carlo Pambianco. You could look him up. He's a very famous guy in Italy. He's not alive now. I was in touch with his son a couple of times because he was like the first fashion consultant, and he was the one who told people like the Canali family, just use your last name. You got a good last name. You don't have to use this other thing that you came up with. Just use your last name. And when you hit the American market, there's certain things you got to do. You must advertise. You must be consistent with your logos. You got to do certain, and you got to have a great product, and you have to have value. That's something my grandfather and my father always taught me, was to have value for your customers. You need the value for your customers. You can't just have a nice product and say, oh, nobody else has this product because I have it. And even though it's nice quality, I want to charge $10,000 for it. That's not always going to work. You have to give your customer value. So let's say you have a beautiful product and you bought it at a pretty good price. And sure, maybe you could sell it for $2,900 or $2,800, but you say, you know what? I don't want to be a pig. I'm going to go $2,150. As long as you're making a little money on it, you don't have to kill the customer all the time with the price. So let's go now. We're going to talk about Canali. Now, Canali still has, let me go back a few years, talk about Canali. So for many, many years, I'm talking about late 80s, all of the 90s, into the 2000s, the navy blue Canali suit, which is fabric. I know all the fabric numbers still, a lot of them by heart. 1032631, which is the beautiful, basic Canali navy blue. It's not the opening price, because the opening price is tropical wool, and it doesn't feel good at all. At least it didn't before. I don't like tropical wool. Some people go on there and they say, ooh, this is for summer. It's tropical wool. Tropical wool is not a good fabric. It's kind of scratchy. It kind of wrinkles a lot. It's not good. So Canali had a fabric that was one up from the tropical, and that fabric was 10326, which was the article of the fabric, and then color number 31, which is navy blue. We also bought the same fabric in 10327, color 11, which was charcoal gray, and then we did 10326 again in color 10, which was black. I can't believe I memorized all these colors and fabric numbers going back a lot of years, my friends. Those were the three basic Canali suits that we bought them for our stores in three models all the time. We bought double-breasted, we bought 3-button suits, and we bought 2-button single-breasted, because those are the models that were happening those years. And we couldn't sell enough of those, but the price was $995. That was the price of the suit, $995, unless it was something like Canali used to charge for oversized. If you're a 48 or larger, it cost 20% more, or double-breasted. They also charged you more to make a double-breasted suit. You see, the Canali family, they had everything down to the little smallest euro. They knew exactly what everything was going to cost them, and they charged you for everything. If you wanted to buy a set of suits that were single-breasted, you wanted those suits in double-breasted, you had to pay more money for the double-breasted suit. And nothing you could do about it. There's no negotiation. That was their price, and that was the end of it. So not custom. I'm talking off the rack. All these brands, I'm talking off the rack, by the way. You want to go custom with any of them, you're going to pay double for what the price is. So Canali, here we go. The plain gray suit. Like I said before, we used to sell it for $9.95, the simple plain gray. Here it is, $2,895. So the prices have gone way, way up, just like I was saying. Of course, they're not going to tell you any fabric numbers. They didn't want anybody to know what the fabric numbers are because they didn't want you to look it up someplace else. And you'll say, hey, I saw the same suit in another store. They had Canali. It's the same fabric number. Why is it much less than you're selling it for on your website? They don't want anybody to check. So that's why they do that. Okay, here's a dress shirt, $375. That's a normal price for a good dress shirt. Look at a dress shirt like Frey, beautiful dress shirt, or Stefano Ricci. Stefano Ricci, $750, $950 for a dress shirt. But they have the best collar. It's all about the collar style. I told you. It's all about the collar. Stefano Ricci, gorgeous collar. I love their collar. And sometimes they do white collar, white cuff, which I think is coming back a little bit. I have one of them myself from last season, and I like it a lot. White collar, white cuff. But unfortunately for myself, I made the wrong collar, and I don't like it. I don't like the way the collar looks on me. I like semi-spread. This one was a little too long. So Canali, $24.95, $38.95 must be something special. Okay, Super 160s, little special fabric, but not crazy price for what they offer you. They offer you an amazing fit, great fabric, almost all handmade, and you have the brand, and they own the factory in Italy. So it's not a name that is coming out with a brand, and they need a factory to make it for them. It's not that. So let's see what else they got here. Let's go look at their blazers for a second. We'll take a look at the jackets alone. All right, so here they got a jacket. They have a thing called a K jacket. I was never into that, KEI. It's like an unconstructed type of thing. The K, I think it sells pretty well in stores around the United States. Their brand is really geared towards the U.S. market. I mean, really, really very, they make soft construction, but everything looks extremely tailored. Very well pressed, crisp. That's a New York market. That's a U.S. market customer. That's not a European customer. That's not a Asian customer. That's a U.S. customer. They know that the big money is here in the United States. We're consumers. We buy stuff. We like cars. We like clothes. We like watches. We like all those kind of things. We like buying gifts for people, that kind of stuff. And we like buying televisions. Every room has to have a TV. So we like that too. And again, the overshirt with the two big pockets, $1,900. I don't know why anybody wants that overshirt. I think it's kind of ugly. I don't like that overshirt at all. I wouldn't wear that overshirt. Let's just check out the shoes. I don't know if Canali ever bought their shoe factory, but they could have over the years. $695, $750 for a pair of shoes, especially these are whole cut. Whole cut shoes means there's no seams. The whole shoe is one piece of leather, except just in the back where you have the seam. But, $750 for a pair of shoes. All right, I could go for $750 for a pair of shoes. Not terrible, but I got to tell you something. They look like rocks. They look like I'm going to put those shoes on and my feet are going to be like inside a rock walking on the concrete in Manhattan. And by the time I get home, I'm not going to be able to walk for 3 days because my feet have blisters all over them. You ever have that time you wear a new shoe and the next day you got to wear like moccasins because your feet are all screwed up? Feet all screwed up from a hard shoe. These shoes look hard. I got to admit, they don't look soft by any means. They look like rocks to me. And, usually when you see that, oh, here's some suede. That's my favorite thing. Dark brown, chocolate suede, but I wouldn't spend $650 for their suede. You could buy better suede for less money from like Magnani. Magnani makes beautiful, beautiful shoes made in Spain. And of course, I make shoes in Spain too. And when my new website is up, you can visit it. And you could check out the new shoes. We're doing something new with the shoes, 48-hour custom production for the shoes. But you could buy it as it is in the picture. You can choose your size, or you can send us an email and say, look, I want that shoe in blue. I don't want black leather. I want blue. And we have it, so we can make it for you in the blue. So there you have it, another podcast. We went through all those brands. We went through Brunello Cucinelli, Tom Ford, Kiton, Brioni, Canali. Those are some of the top brands for menswear. There are others I know. There's Corneliani, and there's Zilli, and there's Belvest, and I know I could rattle off a whole bunch more on the top of my head. And then you have the, Louis Vuitton. Sure, they make men's suits. Prada, sure, they make men's suits, and those brands, but the ones that are the real men's clothing brands, Prada is more of like a lifestyle, luggage, handbag, really for women. Handbags for women, shoes for women, and the men's is like a side thought. That's how it always was with those brands. Men's is like a side thought. Even Gucci. Gucci suits, Gucci dress shirts, not so much. It's really handbags and shoes and belts and glasses for women and scarves. Women is what drives that stuff, really not the men. So, there you have it. I appreciate you listening to this podcast. I hope you learned something from this podcast. I'll come up with some other topics soon to talk about here. Well, I think we'll go back into the history of my family in the menswear business. I think that might be interesting to some people because it's a long one, going back to 1908. That's right, 1908. And that was the name of my store on 3rd Avenue, Phil's 1908, to commemorate the first store my great-grandfather opened on 14th Street and 7th Avenue. That store was called Phil's, and I added the 1908 to my store just to commemorate the year that he opened. So keep that in mind for the next podcast. And until I hear from you again, I don't hear anybody on this podcast. Till I see you again, I can't see anybody on this podcast. Till I interact with you again. I mean, I'm really not interacting with you per se, but you guys are interacting with me. I should do some of these live talks. I do these TikTok lives that I do sometimes 4 or 5 hours at a time. Didn't do one in a while, but we could do another one sometime soon. But please subscribe. You'll find this on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and any other podcast platform that you find your podcast. And this will also be on my website under the media section on suitcafe.com when it is back up and running very shortly for the fall season. We'll be up before September with the fall goods and some all year round goods. So we'll be up way before. And some new ties coming from England. I hope they make them with all the tariffs. I think everybody was a little nervous about what they're going to be shipping. So I hope they made the ties. And I bought beautiful, beautiful cashmere scarves and woolen cashmere scarves with beautiful patterns and some just solid colors, some beautiful colors. And those are going to be fairly well priced. So, make sure you check out the website or bookmark it so you can come back. Oh, the website, you could put your email address in and we'll notify you when it goes live. So go to the website, put in your email address, and we will notify you when the new version goes live, okay? So thanks for listening. Please do subscribe. Get your friends to subscribe. Share it. Say hey to @Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports. I'd love to get into your network for what I do with It's All Been Done Before. And I could talk forever about the clothing business and regular business too, by the way. But I won't go on for much longer because you guys got to go to sleep like I do, right? So take it easy, everyone. And like I say at the end of all my YouTube videos, which is also, by the way, at Suit Cafe, see you all again when I'm back at it. Oh, I almost forgot the Alec Baldwin story. That's right. I was just about to sign off. I was giving you the outro music. And man, I said in the beginning of the podcast, I got to tell you this story about the Alec Baldwin. And it's like an incredible story I'm going to tell you with that guy who worked for me in the store on 3rd Avenue and 59th Street. And the guy who only drank the triple espresso and smoked cigarettes and ate potato chips with an occasional slice of pizza, by the way. So one day, this store was 3 floors. So you got to understand that the main floor where the front door was small, like 500 square feet. Then as soon as you walked in, there was a beautiful staircase, all wood with like a runner up the middle, like you're walking into a brownstone, and it goes up one flight. And then really the second floor was the main floor, but it had huge windows. So you could look out onto 3rd Avenue. You saw the Bloomberg building, and you saw Bloomingdale's, and you saw like you were on the ground floor, but you were really on the second floor, right? So I hung out on the second floor a lot. I was on the first floor. This guy was standing outside because you couldn't smoke in the store. So he was smoking outside the store, but near the front door. Okay. And the door was always open, especially on a nice day. You get the fresh air, people flow in, people flow out. Door was open. He's standing there with the cigarette, with the small paper cup with the espresso, standing outside. And who walks in? A guy walks in with a girl behind him, and he gets sort of like up the first set of stairs. Then there's like a little landing, and you got to go up the second part of the stairs to go up one flight to the second floor. So the guy goes up, he's almost on the second landing. All of a sudden, and I wasn't looking at the staircase because there's like a railing to see down the stairway. You got to look up and over. So I wasn't looking up. I was doing something in the store, maybe fixing stock, or maybe I was helping another customer. I don't really remember. All of a sudden, I hear a scream from the guy by the front door who works here. He goes, "Oh my God!" I mean, a big scream. And I run over to the railing. I look over, I look down, and who's looking up at me and I'm looking down is Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin walks into the store right? And this guy who works for me, he's standing by the door with the cigarettes and the espresso. And Alec Baldwin goes past him, but it doesn't register in his head that that's Alec Baldwin, right? And we're talking about like early 2000s. So, he looks quite a bit different then than he looks now. So, he had that cool slick back hair and everything. So anyway, by the time he realizes who it is, Alec Baldwin's like a bunch of steps up, and he turns around. The salesman comes inside the front door. He's standing in the front door, like in the middle of the front door, like he would stand like an earthquake. Like the building's going to fall down, so you want to stand in the doorway, in the frame, so you're protected. That's where he's standing. And he yells out, "Oh my God!" And then Alec Baldwin's like nervous as hell, turns around, like, what is going on? And he wants to run out. And I go, wait, excuse me, can I help you with something? Anything I can help you with? He goes, yeah, okay. He comes up the rest of the way. He talks to me. And I had a raincoat in the window. And he asked me something about that raincoat. I think he wanted a different color. Maybe the raincoat was navy or tan. And he wanted like green. And he said, maybe you can get it for me in green. Can you try and get it for me in green? He gave me his phone number. I don't know if it was his personal number or his assistant's number, but he gave me his phone number and he said, you can get it in green, call me and I'll buy it. But I did call the factory where I bought those raincoats from. I think they were made in, those were not made in Italy at that time. It was a nice company. They were made in Austria. Very nice raincoat, like waterproof material. It was very nice. Made in Austria, but it wasn't available in green. And they wouldn't make one piece anyway for anybody. It wasn't a custom thing. You had to buy sizes, so they wouldn't make it. So anyway, that was the story. That Alec Baldwin walks in and the guy goes, "Oh my God!" And I'll never forget that. I look over the railing and whose face is looking up at me? It's Alec Baldwin. So there you have it, the Alec Baldwin story. Sorry, I almost forgot it at the end, but I squeezed it in there. So subscribe, hit that notification bell if you're on a platform that has that. Make sure you get the next podcast that's going to come out. I'm sure I'll do one soon. And like I say again, see you all again when I'm back at it.